serving as a chairperson for the board of directors. Along with me this morning are my colleagues on the board, Nora Lee, Matt Armenti, Michelle Duke, Dave Fosher, Mike Gregory, Susan Hafty, Tom Kennedy, Kathleen Cohane, Nina Mohanka, Jason Palich, and Mike Rooney. I would also like to welcome our guest of honor, Ellen Dolan, the 2020 Harry S. Cutting Jr. Award recipient, as well as her guests in attendance. On behalf of the board, I would also like to thank you all for your support of the agency and being here this morning. I would like to introduce a few special guests who have joined us. Worcester County District Attorney Joe Early Jr., State Senator Michael Moore, State Representative Hannah Kane, State Representative from the 9th Worcester District, which includes the town of Grafton, Dave Meridian, and from Senator Elizabeth Warren's office, Hannah Benson. Town Manager Kevin Mizikar, Assistant Town Manager Kristen Lass, our Shrewsbury Board of Selectmen, Chair Mo DiPaolo, Beth Cassavant, John LeBeau, and John Samia. Shrewsbury Board of Health Chairs Steve Vigent, and Housing Authority Commissioners Gail Vigent and Bruce Party. Shrewsbury Finance Committee members Vikram Chabra and Mark Murray, Shrewsbury Town Moderator Chris Mena, Selco General Manager Michael Hale, Shrewsbury Fire Chief Jim Vona, and Shrewsbury Council on Aging newly hired Director Holly Luck. Our Shrewsbury School Committee members, Chair Sandy Fritz, Lindsay Heffernan, Dr. Dale McGee, Jason Palich, and John Wensky. Our Shrewsbury Superintendent of Schools, Joseph Sawyer, and Grafton Superintendent of Schools, Jay Cummings. And that is quite a list and a testament to the tremendous support we have here and are fortunate to have. If I've missed anyone, my sincerest apologies. I would also like to take a moment to thank Strutt Catering for preparing the delicious breakfast we have this morning. Derek and Heidi and the Strutt team, and we are so grateful for your support in so many ways throughout the entire year. Additionally, we would like to thank Shrewsbury Media Connection for always highlighting the work that the agency does. I'm grateful for Melanie Petrucci from the Community Advocate for covering us and continuing to write great stories. Finally, our breakfast this morning would not have been possible without the venue and generosity of St. John's High School, and particularly Headmaster Alex Akera. Alex wasn't able to join us today, but wished to say how happy he was to host this event. We also have John Ermilio, the Advancement Director, here with us, and I'd like to extend special thanks to Jody Fontecchio, the Events Manager, and the tech crew at St. John's. SYFS's relationship with the town of Shrewsbury is one we greatly value. From our town manager and assistant town manager to our board of selectmen, finance committee, school department, town meeting members, and everyone else in between, we are grateful for all they have done and continue to do to support the agency's growth and important work. It is also important to acknowledge the advocacy that our State Representative Hannah Kane demonstrates on behalf of SYFS on both the town and Commonwealth levels. This year, the parties just mentioned contributed to an increased amount for the agency's operating budget at town meeting. This allowed the agency to hire a master-level clinician to reduce the months-long wait list the agency has in Shrewsbury for counseling services greatly needed. When I was reflecting on what I would briefly touch on this morning as the board chair in welcome remarks, I kept coming back to two words: contribution and education. Now, while those two words are pretty broad and have meanings that can be understood in several ways, I wanted to relay the way that I believe they impacted the agency and reasons why I kept coming back to them in thoughts and work with SYFS. I mentioned the word education not in relationship to our outstanding schools in Shrewsbury and surrounding towns, but rather with the word stigma. There's nothing sexy about discussing mental health. And when I started to write about how there's nothing shiny and bright, nor is it going to light up anyone's eyes to discuss, I stopped, because it's simply not true. Talking about mental health openly is a gift. It's an ability to treat teenagers who feel isolated or anxious. It's the joy of counseling parents to recognize substance abuse symptoms and their child and save their lives. It's a sparkle in the eyes of a young person who is able to overcome an eating disorder. It's a senior citizen who finally understands their feelings of depression or abandonment. It's a girl who realizes limitless potential in her future. And it's a family who receives much needed help finding resources. During National Mental Health Day this past year, a remarkable quote was used nationwide, one that I repurposed on the back of your annual reports at your tables. I hope you will all take this report home and read it from cover to cover. It's short and a quick read, but it gives you so much valuable information about our agency and the incredible work that is being done right here in our own backyard. And that quote I mentioned talks about how we are so willing to treat parts of our body that are sick or injured, like having cancer or arthritis or breaking a bone. We freely talk about those ailments unashamed. But what we are not willing to talk about open and freely, with confidence, is our mental health. We are still unwilling as a society as a whole to accept that our brains can sometimes need to be taken care of as well. And that mental health doesn't just affect the person down the street or the stranger you see at the supermarket or the friend of a friend you may have heard about. Mental health is not discriminatory, and it can affect each and every person, each and every family at any given time. Taking care of your mental health is not a weakness, and it's not a disability. It's something we need to talk about and learn about in order to take care of ourselves and each other. And we need to commend those who seek help. We need to commend those, lean on others, and open our ears. And in this way, it begins through education. If each person here could understand the work that the agency is truly doing from the inside, within our own communities, in our own backyards, we could begin to truly embrace mental health. Shrewsbury is a great place to live, a wonderful, outstanding community, as are all of the surrounding towns that we work with, including Marlborough and Grafton, Northborough, Holden, and more. But we aren't in a bubble, and behavioral and mental health issues happen right here too. It's all time that we became educated on what we can personally do to exercise compassion for all, and perhaps even look at ourselves first. Life can be hard and people are vulnerable, but when we take away the insecurity felt by those seeking help, we will truly be the communities that we desire to live in. As far as contribution goes, this doesn't just refer to financial contribution, although that is definitely how the agency does its incredible work. Contribution can be in the form of volunteering, such as on an event committee that SYFS holds. It can be introducing our executive director to an individual or business that you know of who could become a sponsor. It could be spreading the work that the agency does, or attending the event as a guest, such as being here today. My love for community involvement came to me at a young age from my grandfather, who turned 97 last week. When I was younger, I remember him saying to me that to him, the definition of community was helping those who could not help themselves, or caring for all around you. Please take the extra time today to really learn about our programs and the work that we're doing, and even participate in some mental health trainings. By furthering your education on mental health and making a commitment to contribute in some way to SYFS this year, whether large or small, is the challenge I bring forth to every person in this room. Your support of mental health will make an invaluable impact on our community, one person at a time. I'll let our Executive Director, Christine Maury, introduce the SYFS staff, but I would be remiss if I didn't say on behalf of the Board of Directors that she has assembled an incredible team of talented, compassionate, and hardworking individuals. I can assure you that the cases they see and clients they work with would at times break your heart. But in return, their work and successes would also restore your faith. They endure long hours, a high burnout rate, and nights where they agonize over their most difficult cases. I want them to know we appreciate you, we value you, and we thank you. I would like to take this moment to introduce our extraordinary Executive Director, Christine Maury, to give you the State of the Union on the work being done at SYFS. We are incredibly fortunate to have Christine. She is a blessing in every way to SYFS and someone who often works outside of her job description to do the absolute maximum she can when going beyond is required. I am grateful not to only work with her on a daily basis, but to call her my friend. Thank you for being here today and your continued support of SYFS.
Good morning and welcome. It's so nice to see our extended SYFS family here with us today and some new faces. new partners, new collaborators. We're really excited to have you all here, and I'm really excited to tell you about the great work that we've been doing. So I'd like to thank those who have generously sponsored our breakfast today: Central One Federal Credit Union, District Attorney Joseph D. Early Jr., Tom Foss and Melissa Pride Foss, John and Susan Hafty, Joseph J. Jenkins, State Representative Hannah Kane, St. John's High School, Shrewsbury Police Patrol Officers, Struck Catering, and John and Joanne Tyndall. Thank you so much for your generous support. I'd also like to introduce our very dedicated and passionate staff that work, as Melissa mentioned, long hours, do whatever is necessary to do to make sure that we're supporting the well-being of our community members. Our business manager, and so much more than that, Lynn Lynch. Where are you? If the staff could just stand up while I introduce you. There she is back there, Lynn Lynch. Our clinical director, Jennifer Ripken, who's not here with us today because she had a commitment in the Grafton Public Schools, so she's not with us, but Allison Eccleston, our clinical coordinator, school support services coordinator. Allison is a highly trained and very highly skilled trauma clinician. We are very fortunate to have her. Jennifer Flagg, our intake coordinator and alcohol and drug abuse counselor. Stephanie Morad, licensed mental health clinician. Kathy Dolan, licensed clinical social worker. Rachel Baldino, licensed clinical social worker, who is not here with us today. And then, of course, our clinical interns who carry such a huge workload as they're learning about this field and what they're going to be going into entering this workforce. Most of you are here, but Amanda Russo-Falco, mental health counseling from Assumption College. Danielle Novitz, mental health counseling from Assumption College. Patricia Hennessy, mental health counseling, Assumption College. Samantha Galemo, mental health counseling, Assumption College. Kelly Tyler, social work from Becker College. Joseph Forson, social work, Boston University. Grace Hartwell, social work, Boston University. And Heather Martin, social work, Simmons University. So we have a huge clinical intern team this year that is just carrying a huge caseload and making impacts everywhere they are. So our mental health is the lens through which we experience and process our daily lives, helping us to define our interactions while balancing our emotions. Mental health has undoubtedly the greatest influence on every aspect of our daily lives and our personal happiness at any given point. It impacts our ability to handle adversity, adapt to changes, and influences the way we think not only about ourselves, but about others as well. It's essentially a state of well-being that shapes every single aspect of our lives. It is unimaginable, really hard to conceptualize for those of you that don't work in this field, what the level of need really is. Now, our mission is to ensure that every single member of our community has access to the resources that will enable their social and emotional well-being. But as Melissa said, stigma, long wait lists, insurance troubles, financial vulnerability, the list of barriers to care is long and difficult. So for us to fulfill our mission and vision really requires change. So we always ask, how can we be that change? And we answer that challenge as we answer every challenge, by coming together, armed with devotion to our cause and with determination to the people that we serve. Being the change means that we're doing things large and small every single day to ensure real progress for those that we know and love, or struggling with mental health challenges or substance use disorders. It means providing counseling for someone with a mental health challenge. It means helping a family find a warm and safe place to sleep at night, or keeping warm through the winter. It means helping community members safely navigate their way out of domestic violence. It means supporting our schools and responding to the acute and complex needs of our students. It means helping young girls build self-esteem and leadership skills. But being the change not only means expanding and strengthening our workforce, it means taking bold steps in advancing trauma-informed care, and mostly it means striving even further to help our communities, our school administrators, and our elected officials understand the continued need for investment in mental health and social services. And I would like to just give a shout out to the town of Shrewsbury and the administration, Town Manager Kevin Mizikar, Assistant Town Manager Kristen Lass, the Select Board. These folks have demonstrated such a clear and strong commitment to the well-being of their residents, not only by providing mental health first aid training to everybody that works in the town administrative offices, and I know Ellen, you sent some staff to that too, thank you. That's a training that prepares any public-facing personnel to identify and recognize any community member that may be struggling with a mental health or substance use challenge and respond appropriately and link them to the services they might need. But this town leadership also acknowledges that there's another growing population with a very high prevalence of mental health and substance use challenges, and that's our older adults. So in close collaboration with the town, we're just in the process of completing a behavioral health needs assessment that's community-wide. And I have to just tell you how deeply fortunate we feel to be working in a town that is so supportive of our work, not only with financial contributions, but with your clearly demonstrated deep caring about the residents of our community. So thank you so much for that. So, progress is being made. However, change also means building on our gains and pressing ever forward. And really pressing forward we must, because there is no other disease group in relation that compares to mental health illness in relation to prevalence, persistence, and the damage that it can cause. We must together stand strong, even in the face of continued adversity, because changing our very broken behavioral health care system means channeling our collective passion, our energy, our persistence, and our perseverance. And it means that all of us, those of us that are doing this work, those of you that support us and make our work possible to begin with, must move forward as one. And we really need to recognize that everybody has the capacity to do really great things. We know this to be true because we see our own clients every day working so hard to overcome enormous obstacles. We see the successes and the challenges. But in my nearly 5 years of involvement with this organization, I don't think I've ever felt more excited and optimistic about our work and our future. As we reflect back over the past year on our accomplishments, we provided about 2,000 hours of outpatient mental health counseling. We processed 197 referrals for social services. We provided mental health first aid training for 800 teachers across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Participants in that class were able to identify over 650 young people who were struggling with an onset of a mental health challenge and link them to the appropriate resources. That brings our total number of teachers trained to about 2,500. So shout out to Senator, State Representative Hannah Kane and Senator Michael Moore for advocating for funding for that program. We hope that you will continue to advocate for us as we continue that important work. We prepared 25 girls. We prepared 25 girls to navigate the complexities of middle school and adolescence. We assisted 49 residents with fuel assistance and 15 residents facing homelessness. We provided wraparound and intern support in the Shrewsbury public schools. We provided intern support and ran 2 social emotional groups for the middle school students at Alhambra Academy. We supported the seniors living in Shrewsbury Housing Authority facilities with our support, Live Your Life Well support group. Some of them are here with us today, right behind you right there. Thank you so much for coming and thank you for your participation. I know many of you have been in that group for years and we're so thrilled to be working with you and thrilled that you could join us today. We're the lead agency of the Shrewsbury Coalition for Addiction Prevention and Education. In collaboration with Shrewsbury High School, we facilitated the One Love Foundation's Relationship Violence Education Program with over 500 members of the junior class. And we provided Shrewsbury's public schools, St. John's High School, Wachusett Regional School District, Westboro Regional Schools, the residents of Orchard Grove, and the Shrewsbury Men's Club with psychoeducation workshops. We were able to support 26 Shrewsbury families and over 90 children involved in the Worcester Department of Children and Families through our holiday toy drive. So thank you for our generous donors in our community and for Shrewsbury Rotary members who volunteered to help us with that event. So we will continue all of this really important and impactful work, but we've expanded into some areas that I'm really excited to talk about today. First, in December, we welcomed Stephanie Moore, Stephanie, to our team. Stephanie completed her internship with us and is now a full-time staff clinician funded by the town of Shrewsbury. Stephanie's sole purpose is to try to reduce our 6-month wait list, and she's already carrying a really full caseload and probably has 40 referrals sitting on her desk, so sorry for the overwhelm. Our very own Jennifer Flagg, where are you, Jen? Jennifer Flagg has been with us for a couple of years as office manager, as intake coordinator, and Jennifer recently, as I mentioned, completed her training as an alcohol and drug abuse counselor and is doing some very important work that I'll talk about in just a moment. We've added a new support group to the residents at Orchard Grove for older adults there, and we've expanded our wraparound services to include both the Shrewsbury Public Schools and the Grafton Public Schools. So welcome to the folks from Grafton that are here with us today. We're really excited to be working with you. But the work that we're doing, that's awesome work, but the work that we're doing to really impact systemic change in the way that we talk about and respond to mental health and substance use challenges is perhaps what I'm most excited about. So anybody who knows me or has ever had a conversation with me knows how I feel about mental health first aid. That's my jam. So prevention, early intervention, education, I feel very passionately about. We started youth mental health first aid about 5 years ago and have since expanded it to include mental health first aid for adults, older adults, public safety. But this year, we have the privilege of being one of the very few pilot sites in the entire nation piloting the new teen mental health first aid program funded by Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation in collaboration with the National Council for Behavioral Health. This in-person training that is delivered over 5 sessions is teaching young people not only that it's okay to talk about mental health problems and substance use problems, but it's okay to support one another and it's okay to not be okay. So this training is teaching young people about common mental health challenges, how to foster their own well-being, and how to support one another. And we are really happy to be piloting this in the Grafton Public Schools this year with the entire sophomore class. And that's where our clinical director is this morning. We've embedded it into the health curriculum, and we are smack in the middle of it. I think it's going really, really well, so we're very excited about that. This program is funded in part by the Reliant Foundation. Thank you, CALSA, for your support. And we already have a long wait list of districts where we have completed district-wide youth mental health first aid training, waiting for implementation excitedly and enthusiastically next year when the program rolls out nationally. And I wish Jennifer Rifkin was here because a shout out to Jennifer. Jennifer Rifkin, our clinical director, came to us with over a decade of substance use treatment and training experience. So we have capitalized on her. And because we know that every community is really struggling with a vaping crisis, it's since in the history of substance use data collection, it has been the fastest growing crisis that ever recorded. So we know we have this generation of children that are really addicted to nicotine now. So Jennifer has developed a curriculum based in 2 evidence-based practices, motivational interviewing and adolescent community reinforcement approach. And because we know that responding punitively to anyone struggling with addiction is not an effective response, she's completed a curriculum of 6 hours of individualized substance use treatment for any student caught vaping in 6 different districts that we're contracted in right now. And they're receiving 6 weeks of individualized treatment. So we are very fortunate to be working in the Wachusett Regional School District, Algonquin Regional High School, Shrewsbury High School, Grafton High School, Shepherd Hill Regional High School, and Marlborough Public Schools. And this is something that we're really excited about because we know that 90% of young people with a substance use disorder have an underlying mental health condition that's being untreated. So this is giving us access to students who are, then, as it turns out, sharing a lot with us about other things that are going on in their lives. So it's really important for us. Again, if you know me, prevention, early intervention, that's my thing. This is how we do it, and this is how we change the system. And this is how we stop progression of illness, progression of substance use disorders. So we're super excited to be working on that program. So our work is seemingly endless. We are really busy. All that stuff we did last year, we did with 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. So we're really fortunate to have expanded our workforce this year. But none of it could have been accomplished without each and every one of you here in the room today. Our sponsors, our supporters, our collaborators, our donors, our volunteers. With my heartfelt gratitude, thank you so much for your support, for your continued collaboration. I look forward to partnering in the future with each and every one of you. So each year at this annual breakfast, we announce the recipient of the Harry S. Cutting Jr. Award. This award is given to somebody who enhances influences the lives of Shrewsbury residents by service, dedication, for their continuous and tireless efforts in our community. And as our board of directors met to talk about potential recipients, they voted unanimously and enthusiastically and agreed that this award should go to Ellen Dolan, Executive Director of the Shrewsbury Public Library. Ellen, you just exemplify leadership, partnership, and innovation, from the massive expansion of the library to coordinating community-wide collaborations, including nearly every town department and agency, to being one of the very first 5 years ago to send your staff to youth mental health first aid training when we didn't even know what we were doing. Thank you for trusting us. And then again recently in the town administrative offices for the adult module. You have just made such a significant impact in our community. I have so thoroughly enjoyed my time working with you. And at this time, I'd like to invite Selectman Matt Cassavant out to talk a little bit more about your accomplishments. Congratulations, Alan. There's nobody more deserving than you for this award. Thank you.
Good morning. When Christine asked me to introduce the recipient of this year's Cutting Award, I accepted without hesitation. Ellen Dolan really needs no introduction. She is well known throughout the Shrewsbury community thanks to her role as library director, and likely needs to leave the county to have dinner or go grocery shopping without interruption. I asked Christine to share Ellen's bio with me and immediately realized that it does not do justice to the person that we are honoring this morning. It reads, Ellen Dolan, director of the Shrewsbury Public Library, manages a staff of more than 40 employees, a busy multi-million-dollar public facility, as well as an overall budget of close to $2 million in municipal, grant, and trust funds. With more than 35 years of experience in the public library field, in small communities and cities, she has a broad understanding and strong commitment to the difference progressive library service can make in a community. Her management strengths include customer relations and service enhancement, revenue diversification, personnel development, and facility improvement. She holds a master's degree in library and information sciences from Simmons College. She is a 2010 winner of the Carnegie Corporation New York Times Foundation I Love My Librarian Award. If you read between the lines, it says, Ellen Dolan is a rock star in her field, but she is humble beyond measure, and therefore, this entire morning, while greatly appreciated by Ellen, is likely making her feel a bit uncomfortable and overwhelmed. Bear with me, Ellen, I have a few more pages. A vacancy on the library board of trustees led to my meeting Ellen. She sat with me in one of the reading rooms and filled me in on what the role would entail should I choose to apply. Having grown up in a community where the library was more of an afterthought than a focal point, I was astounded by how much Shrewsbury's library had to offer and the number of people that cycled through each day. We were meeting in the old library, and I knew that plans were underway to propose a library renovation project to the town. Ellen's energy was contagious, and I can't seem to resist a good campaign, so I applied and was appointed to the library board of trustees, where my respect for Ellen only continued to grow. At my first meeting, Ellen presented her director's report, which I assumed had to be a quarterly update. Oh no, the pages of documentation were for the month, and the monthly usage statistics presented at the close of each meeting were and still are reflective of the dedication Ellen has for her role and her vision for the Shrewsbury Public Library. Ellen is the ultimate professional. I don't think I have ever seen Ellen asked a question that she could not answer. She is always prepared and extremely knowledgeable about every aspect of the library. I see this every year during Ellen's annual budget presentation to the Finance Committee, where she advocates for resources that will improve the quality of service the library provides to the public. Ellen's professionalism was also on full display through the many meetings, hearings, and discussions during both campaigns for a new library. As most people in this room know, the campaign to build a new library was an uphill climb. After voters defeated the question by 153 votes in 2011, most of us were privately able to wallow in self-pity for a few days. But Ellen had to face not only her staff, but the public, all of whom felt the disappointment as sharply as she. Although the ballot asked voters a yes or no question regarding a sum of money to renovate a municipal building, the underlying debate was about the relevance of libraries in an increasingly digital world. Facing additional years in a building that was literally falling down in places and leaking badly in others, Ellen led by example, starting each day with a positive attitude, keeping up staff morale, and always crediting the success of the library to her fantastic team of library staff. She and her staff continue to innovate and offer programs and services that drew in new members every month, proving the library's worthiness in the community and setting the stage for a successful campaign in 2013, the end result being the beautiful new building that is the focal point of our town center today. The Cutting Award is given to recognize members of the community who, through their outstanding commitment and contributions, embody the spirit of giving, community service, and support for the Shrewsbury community. I am hard-pressed to think of anyone more deserving of this honor than Ellen Dolan. We are so fortunate that she chose Shrewsbury and shared with us her incredible talents in making our library a destination not only for our residents, but for residents in neighboring communities. When our library was under construction, I was with my daughters checking out books from the children's room at the West Boylston Library. When the librarian took my library card, she said, "You're from Shrewsbury. You have Ellen Dolan. How lucky you are." Yes, we are lucky to have Ellen Dolan, someone who has completely woven themselves into the fabric of our community, someone who has stepped outside of their own space to mentor others and provide support, as she did for the Council on Aging as they work through their new strategic plan, as she did for the newly formed Shrewsbury Town Center Association, jumping in with both feet, eager to unlock the potential of the town center and take on a new challenge, even with her retirement just around the corner. Just as a library is the heart of our community, Ellen Dolan is the heart of our library. It is no coincidence that the library parking lot is always jammed. Community members of all ages are visiting the library more than ever, and the space that Ellen helped to shape through her work on the Library Building Committee is a gift that our residents get to enjoy every day. This award comes at the perfect time to honor Ellen's service to the town of Shrewsbury and thank her for the lasting impact she has made on our community. Please join me in congratulating Ellen Dolan.
Ellen, I'm pleased and honored to present you with this award. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. You are so deserving.
Thank you so much. Quick picture and then you can continue.
Is that on? Okay, it is. All right. I am extremely humbled to receive this award today. Two reasons. First, because of the people who received this award before me. They have been some extremely capable, intelligent, committed, and passionate people, and I'm not sure my name belongs among that level of people, so I'm extremely grateful. Second, I am honored to receive this award because I deeply believe in the value of service. I believe in that idea of contributing to the common good. I think the common good is a term that's vitally important. I know in people's lives we have all had experiences or known people who have helped shape our view on the world or helped develop our moral compass. For me, that person was my father. His name was Gerald Dolan. He was not a man of fame or renown, not known in business or commercial circles or in politics or anything like that. He wasn't involved in any civic organizations or clubs or associations. He just provided service to others in a quiet, direct, and humble way every day. My mom used to joke to us that Dad couldn't go to bed at night until he'd done his good deed for the day. So I saw that in my life every single day, And I feel like my father was the finest person I've ever known, and I was just lucky enough to be his daughter. And the incident that really crystallized my commitment to service happened with my dad when I was probably about 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere in what we call the tween years now. It stayed with me in my brain all these years, first because it was highly embarrassing to me as a tween, and as the years passed, it became vitally important to me because I realized my father had shared with me a really important life lesson. I grew up in the city of Marlborough, in one of the older neighborhoods, a working class neighborhood where all the houses were close together and your cousins lived down the street and you were outside constantly playing. It was a time when everyone knew everyone, as they say. Now, just around the corner from our neighborhood lived two sisters. And I won't say their family name, but I'll just call them the Smith sisters. And that's how they were known. I don't think anyone really knew their first names. They lived alone in their parents' home, and they were elderly at the time this story happened. And they were known for being loud and demanding and difficult. They were known for their garish dress and crazy makeup and hair. In the kindest kind of descriptions of the day, they were known as odd. They were different from most people, and most people avoided them. I know as a child, if I saw them on the street, I made sure I was nowhere near them. I am sure they lived with mental illness and possibly intellectual disabilities. And I am very sure they lived a very sad and lonely, isolated life. Now, the specific day this incident occurred was a winter Sunday morning, and I happened to be on the way to church with my father. What was unusual, it was just my dad and I heading to church on a Sunday. It was after the Saturday masses came out, which was a blessing, but we were heading to church, for some reason alone, I don't know why. Usually it would have been family members with us. And Dad was driving to church, drive of less than 10 minutes, and we came upon the sisters walking in the roadway because there was snow piled high on the sidewalks. And it was a bitter, cold, and windy day, and of course, my dad stops to offer a ride. Now, I watched as he had to assure them that it was safe for them to get in the car. I am sure they had reason to be wary of people. So he goes into this long recitation. Hi, you remember me, I'm Jerry Dolan, I live over on Maplewood Ave. I knew your parents, I used to deliver papers to them. My parents knew your parents, you remember my parents, on and on. This is my daughter Ellen, she goes to IC school. On, and I am sitting listening to him, praying they don't accept the offer for the ride. I have to admit that was the truth. But after much hesitation and some anxious whispers between the sisters, they agreed to take a ride. And as was the custom in the day, this meant I was supposed to get out of the front seat because I was just a child. So I get out, one sister heads into the front seat and the other sits in the back with me. And I am hugging the door and keeping my head down as low as possible, hoping no one will see me. Of course, when we arrive at the church, all the parking spaces near the church are all filled up because it's been a little delay. And we have to park in the upper parking lot and walk down the hill to church. Now, I saw this as my out. I figured the sisters who were known for charging head down everywhere would get out of the car and start rearing down the street, and then I would be able to walk alone with my dad and not be seen with them. Well, it starts out well. They jump out of their car, they slam the doors shut, and without a word start heading away. And I think all is good, but you can see that all the walkways are covered with ice, and they begin making their way very slowly in the treacherous ground. And of course, my dad insists that one of the sisters take his arm, and I was amazed that she did. And then my dad, with his quiet look, looks over his shoulder at me, and it's clear I'm to assist the other sister. So we make our way down the icy walkway, and as you can imagine, all the other families are coming out of their cars. And there are the three women in the car on the sidewalk with their heads down, not looking at anyone. So the two sisters and I. The only difference with me is my cheeks and my ears were bright red with shame. And I am trying to assess which classmates and schoolmates are observing this spectacle of us with the Smith sisters. I find myself praying as we're heading down that walkway that not too many people will see us. Even I was aware that praying on your way to church that you won't be embarrassed was not a good thing. I noticed as I'm going down the walkway, I get a few smirks from some of the kids in my school, but I did have a few commiserating looks from some. Then we finally reach the church steps and make our way to the top of the steps, and I watch as the first sister abruptly pulls her arm away and grabs her other sister's hand, and they start to their regular cue. You know, if you're a churchgoer, you have your own cues. So Dad and I walk to our pew and put the nailers down, and we kneel and say our prayers, and I'm just waiting for the color to drain out of my cheeks and my ears. Once we sit back down in the pew, I begin scanning around to see, which families are at this mass, who's going to see what happened. And my dad, he quietly reaches over and he just pats my hand and gives me a brief but reassuring smile. And that smile said to me, in his quiet humor way, "Look, we survived." It said, "That was easy to be nice." And it said, "I love you." Now, I would like to say that I had this revelation of compassion at that moment, that I understood, the full bloom of my moral compass, but that's not what happened. I spent the rest of Mass assessing, how much humiliation I could expect the next day at school. Who would forget by the time school opened on Monday morning? But over the years, that memory has surfaced again and again for me. And it changed from being one of embarrassment, something I was so ashamed of, to one of the most treasured remembrances of my dad. And it helped me remember why I have this outsized pride for who my dad was. In this and in many other kind of examples, my dad helped me to see that there is honor in serving others, in providing help whenever you can, and always giving a simple kindness and welcome to others, even when it was difficult to do so, probably especially when it was difficult to do so. Now, I have been extremely privileged to work in a field in public library service where I can put this belief to good use, where I can help others, and where I can give kindness and welcome to others. And I've been doubly blessed to work with an amazing group of people who share this same view. I have a number of the member of the Board of Library Trustees with us here today. If I could ask them to stand to be recognized. Jeff Billingham, Dean Gillum, Claire O'Connor, Nancy Gilbert, and some of my other trustees are busy with other activities today, but I thank you for supporting the mission that we undertake. And then we also have our library department heads here today, and if I could ask them to stand as well. I know they're going to be embarrassed, but please do. First, I have Priya Rathman, who is our Assistant Director and Head of Adult Services, and she brings together all of those incredibly impactful programs for our community. And then we have Sonia Dratar. Sonia is our Head of Children's Services, the early literacy programs and learning programs that you find at our library, thanks to Sonia and her staff. And we have Pat Hadland, who's Head of Technical Services. That's where all those materials get processed and cataloged, and your cataloging databases allow you to find materials in the library. And Melissa Wentworth, who's our Head of Circulation Services. Melissa and her staff make sure that you can get things out of the library and that all your service needs are met. I thank these people and all their staff because they are on the front lines of providing service every day. They are the ones who directly provide the help, provide kindness and welcome when you come into the library. And as you would imagine, sometimes being kind is very hard to do when people are angry or demanding or dealing with emotional or mental stress. But our team accomplishes that every single day, and they have made the library a place where people can expect help, kindness, and welcome whenever they come. So I thank you. So I see this award as recognizing the great work of our library team, whether that's trustees, volunteer committees, and our staff. And I thank SYFS for this incredible recognition. But I also would like to think of this award as a celebration of service, a celebration of the commitment to public good, to common good. Organizations like SYFS who help the most vulnerable among us. As a proud mother of a young woman and my daughter who has 5 years of sobriety, I can tell you that when you're in the midst of addiction, that having an organization like SYFS is so important. So I thank you for your important work. My daughter wanted to be here today to celebrate with me this kind of commitment to service, but her little one's home with the flu. So I thank you for the kind of work you do on a very personal level. I thank the schools and the municipal departments across this community, the health and safety and fire workers, because all of that is about service to others. I think members of civic organizations like the Lions Club and the Rotary and the newly formed Shrewsbury Town Center Association, the Garden Club and others. It's about service to make our community better. Children's organizations like scout groups and garden clubs and, like music associations and more. I'm sure I've missed some, but those organizations and the people who work in them are providing incredible service across the community. It's about generous hearts giving again and again. So I think this award is really about celebrating our shared efforts to the common good. So I thank you.
This time I'd like to invite State Representative Hannah Kane.
Don't want to fall off your hand. There you go.
Hello, Ellen.
Hello. Yeah.
This award is actually for you. It is not acknowledging everyone else's work. It's acknowledging your work. You are most deserving of this, and I'm so happy to see you get this award and to be here and to provide some of my own thoughts on you. I first want to just give a huge shout out to the fact that I'm so excited this morning that every speaker so far has been a woman, and in the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage this year, well done. Not taking anything away from you, my friend Mike Moore, when you're coming up in a minute, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. I also just want to acknowledge the amazing work that SYFS does. I am so happy to advocate for you on the state level with Mike and with my colleague, Representative David Meridian. But at the end of the day, I have never seen us be so committed to our community and committed to others in terms of what the work is and what needs to be done. And I just want to, Christine, we would not be where we are today without you and your leadership. So I really want to thank you for all that you do. I grew up with an aunt and uncle as librarians. They had a terrific love of reading and sharing that with others, but they sought and found no joy in community service. And I can tell you, as somebody who spent a lot of time at that library, the difference is acute in terms of the leadership that a library has if they are as committed to the community as you have been, Ellen. Jim and I were out the morning of the Yuletide event, which was terrific, fabulous first event. And we were coming by Town Hall and we pulled in because we saw Ellen getting signs out of the back of her car and posting them around town. This is not something a normal librarian chooses to do. And it just spoke volumes for who Ellen is and how she sees the role of the library and of the head librarian. You have set such an incredibly high standard. Someone mentioned about earlier, all the work that you put in. One of my favorite things is generally on a Friday, at least once a month or so, I can find Ellen down at our favorite local Romaines with her husband. And I know that, when you work as hard as you do, having a supportive husband who understands that passion is critical. And my husband, having grown up in Marlborough, along with Ellen's husband, who he knows well, I just want to acknowledge that it's been great to see Jimmy so supportive of you in his way. Not my Jimmy, her Jimmy. But, Ellen, seeing how you responded, as Beth said, to the first library vote failing, I truly believe it is because of the way that you responded to it, and your commitment to seeing us through to a successful vote is why we ended up having one. There are many times when you go through a challenging situation and you come out of it upset and depressed and spurned and deciding, you know what, screw that. They don't want the library, forget it. You didn't do that. You didn't choose to leave this community and go to one of the many other places, I'm sure, that was actively looking to have you go there. You stayed in this community, and you made sure that you got us through to where we needed to be. So for all of your work in our community and for our community that we've been so blessed by, I have a citation from the House of Representatives, and it says, "Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Ellen Dolan." And now, because the woman who made this for me made the type so small, I have to read from this piece of paper. Ellen Dolan, for receiving the 2020 Harry S. Cutting Jr. Award for your selfless and remarkable efforts to strengthen our Shrewsbury community. Your leadership in making our library a cherished center for all in our community. Your above and beyond efforts to support the revitalization of our downtown, and your positive attitude that welcomes all will leave a lasting legacy far beyond your beloved vocational calling as an award-winning librarian. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success. And it's signed by myself and the Speaker of the House. But I really want to leave you with this notion that our library in the center of our town is a beacon, and it invites all in. And it is there because of your diligence and your commitment to this community. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, I think Melissa wants a picture.
Don't fall. Here, you hold yours. Okay.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I'd like to invite Senator Mike Moore up.
You need to stay here.
Good morning, it's great to be here, and I guess it's great to be the only man speaking this morning. And I do apologize, Ellen, in a rush to get my son to school this morning, I left the citation at my house. As Christine was talking, and I think we all recognize now that mental health has so much of an impact on all our daily lives, from substance abuse to family happiness to domestic violence. And the work that Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services does in the work in the towns of Shrewsbury and Grafton is vitally needed, and it's really important if we want to support our families and improve the quality of life for our families and our kids. So thank you for all the work that you do. I know everyone's dying to get to work, so I'm going to basically make this short but hopefully impactful and say, after listening to the story, Ellen, first of all, when I saw your name on the list for getting the award, I thought this was actually long overdue. I would have thought you would have gotten this years ago. But again, listening to your story, I think the main thing is that if your father's looking down right now, he's looking at you and he's very proud. And of all your accomplishments and everything you've done. So congratulations and thank you for being a part of the Shrewsbury community.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you and congratulations again, Ellen. We're so grateful to have you in our community. You will miss you tremendously. So deserving. All right, so that concludes our program. I know everybody wants to get going. So thank you all again so much for supporting us, for partnering with us, collaborating, volunteering, all of the work that you do. Please take your annual report with you and read it. so you can hear more about the wonderful work we do. If anybody's feeling so inclined, like I just threw some annual appeal envelopes on the table, it's just in case. Thank you all for your support. We hope to see you at our gala in May. And if anybody wants to volunteer to help us with that committee, please reach out. Thank you and have a wonderful day, everyone.